What is up, guys? Welcome back to the last video of our JavaScript series. So it's been a pretty crazy journey. I hope you guys have been learning so much and you've been enjoying the videos. In this video, we're going to be talking about our JavaScript DOM, which is our document object model. So this is basically how we interact our JavaScript with our HTML pages. So this is going to be a really fun video. Please watch to the end and let's get straight into it. We can first start off by creating a CSS file. And then we can link this CSS file to our HTML. In our body, on top of our script link, we can add two tags. The first will be an h1 tag, which says hello. And the second will be a button, which will say click me. When we save that, we can come into our web page here and we can see it's finally showing something. It says hello. We have a button that says click me. We can now use our JavaScript to access our HTML elements. So in order to do that, we go to our JavaScript file. Let's start by creating a variable. We'll say const. We'll call this text equal to, we'll get our document object. We'll say dot. Then we'll use a method known as query selector. So what this method does is it gets an element from our HTML file, such as our h1 element or our button element or whatever other elements we've created, and then it will store it within a variable you've created. So we could say query selector, then in quotes we say h1, and what it will do is it will take our h1 tag here, which is hello, and then it will store it in our text variable here. But the actual way you probably do that is using classes. So what we'll do here is we'll just add some classes. So add a class here. We'll call this title. And then we can add a class for this one also. A class, we'll call this change. We'll call that change, yes. Then we can come back here. Well, let's just save that. We can come back here. And instead of saying h1, since we're accessing a class, we say dot and we say title, so that our h1 tag will be stored within our text here. Now that you've gotten your element and stored it into our variable here, we could manipulate it in a number of different ways. For example, if we wanted to change how it looks, wanted to change its style, so we could get our text element here, which is our h1, wanted to change its style. Then we could say style dot. This dot allows us to access our CSS attributes. So we wanted to change the color. We wanted to change this to red. So once we save that, come back to our page and we can see hello has changed to red. We can also access other CSS attributes such as font size. So normally in CSS we would say font size, but this will not work in our JavaScript. What we have to use instead is our camel casing. So we'll say font and capital S size, and we'll give it a font size of, let's say, 50 pixels. We'll save that, and we come back here and we can see our font size has changed to a larger font size. Another popular thing we can do with our JavaScript is to add and remove classes. So let's just create a class in our style sheet here. We'll call it change text. So within this class, we'll have our color of light blue. Then we could also have a font size of 100 pixels this time. Then we could have a border. And our border will be 10 pixels. And solid black. You can save that. Then when we go to our JavaScript file here, we could add a class by, I'll just delete that first. We'll say text, we'll say dot, then we'll say class list. So class list allows us to access all the classes within our element. So when we say class list, we can say dot, and we can say add, and then we can add a class to our element. So in this case, we're adding change text. We'll save that. Okay, we can't see our styles from our class. Let's just see what happened here. Everything looks all good here. Let's check our HTML. And yes, if you notice here, I'd misspelled style sheet. I'd missed out on a Y. Let's just save that. When we go back here, we can see our class is added and we can see our very nice looking styles. So that's all good now. Next, we'll talk about event listener. An event listener is basically a function that is run whenever a particular event occurs. So for example, when a button is clicked, the clicking of a button is an event, and the function that is run whenever a button is clicked is an event listener. So let's just create an event listener to demonstrate exactly what I mean. So to create an event listener, first let's add our button. So just one thing I want to change here. Here we can change this class to click because I feel it's a little more descriptive. You can save that. And then we can add it, create a variable, const, we'll call this button, and that'll be equal to our document, our query selector, and then we can call our click class. That's all good. So next, we add our element, which we say button. Then we add a dot. Then to add an event listener, we use the method add event listener. Within the parentheses here, we add two parameters. The first parameter is the name of the event we should listen for. So the name of the event is a click event. And then the second parameter should have a function or a callback function. This is the function that runs whenever this particular event occurs. So we'll create a function the same way we create functions. Say function, add our parentheses, add our curly braces, and within this function we add the task we want it to perform whenever the button is clicked. So let's say we wanted to change our text. So we'll say text, and then our class list, and then we add our class of change text. Change text. We'll save that. When we go back here, we can see our hello just looks normal, but whenever we click this button, it adds the class and everything changes. We can also remove a class from a particular element by changing this add to remove, but it won't do anything here because it already doesn't have it. Even if you click, it can't add or remove. So something we could use in this particular case is toggle. So every time it clicks, it'll add, and when you click the second time, it'll remove. So like we have no styles applied, we click, and we have that applied, we click again, and it's back to normal. So we've seen how we can select an element using query selector. We can also select multiple number of elements at the same time. So to demonstrate that, let me just add a list below our button here. So create an unordered list UL, and then we'll have list items. So we'll just have a list of names. We could have John, we could have Bob, we'll have Mario, and we'll have Ruth. Then we can also give this a class name of name list. We'll save that. And then when we come back to our JavaScript here, and just delete this. When we want to access a number of items, we access them in a very similar way as we access the individual items up there. So we'll create a variable. We'll call this user list. Document And then here, instead of using query selector, we use query selector all. This is because query selector picks one particular item which has this particular class. So if there are like a number of items which have this class, it'll pick the first item and is what it will store into the variable. Query selector all selects all the items with this particular class. So let's just add the class we want to add here. It'll be name list. And then we just want the li items within our name list. We just want the list items within our name list. So we can loop through our current user list by basically using a for loop, just like we would do with any array. We say for user of user list at our curly braces, and then we can perform a function on each particular user. For example, we want to add an event listener. Then our event listener will listen for clicks. Every time our items are clicked, we want a particular function to be performed. Then within this function, let's just send a message to our console so that we can see what item has been clicked. So say console log, then we'll console log this to show this particular item that has been clicked. So let's open up our console here. And when we click John, we can see we get li John. If we click Mario, we get Mario. If we click Ruth, and if we click Bob. And we can use this whenever we want to perform a task. So let's say we wanted to change the color. We'd simply say this dot style, then dot, want to change the color attribute of our element, wanted to change it to green. I'll save that. And then whenever you click an item, it turns green. Another thing we can do here is to dynamically add elements to our page. Let's say we wanted to add more items to our list here. So what we're going to do here is to go to our HTML page first, and let's add an input element right below our button. Say input, we'll give it a class of list input. And then we can also change our button. We'll call it list add button. We'll save that. And then here we can just delete all this. And then we can select our list first. Say, then we'll call it user list. Like before, we'll say document dot. We'll not use query selector or this time we'll use query selector because we are only trying to select the unordered list here. We're not trying to select like all the elements within here. We're just trying to select our unordered list here. So query selector, and it has a name list class. Save that. Then we can add our button also to our JavaScript. We'll say console. Say const rather, button, and maybe document, and our query selector, and it has a class of list add button. We'll save that. So one more thing we have to do is to get our input text field. So say const, and it'll be our list input, which will be document dot query selector, and then it had class of list input. Save that. And then now what we have to do here is to get our button, and then we'll add an event listener. This button will have an event to have a click event, We'll add a function, and then within this function we have to perform 3 tasks in order to get our value that will be put into our text field and then to add it to our list. So the first action we have to perform is to create an li, to create a list item. So this is actually very easy to do. All we have to do is create a variable, we'll say const, we'll call it our new li, and then it will be equal to document dot, and then the method we'll use in order to create an element is create element. Within the parentheses, we add the name of the element we want to create, which is an li, a list item. We'll save that. The next thing we'll have to do is to add our input value into our li. So how we'll do that is first by getting the value that was added to our input. If you can see here, our input is an element, so want to see what value is within that element. So in order to do that, we'll create a variable, we'll say const, and we'll call this item content. Then it'll be equal to, then we'll say document dot create text node. Create text node. Then we add our parentheses, and within this we get our input field, which is our list input. Then we'll say dot value. This will give us the value that was entered within our text field. So the next thing we do is now to get this value and then add it to this li that we created. So we say new li dot append child. We're adding a child to our li, and it'll be our item content. We'll save that, and now we have added the content of our input into our list item that we created. Next, we're going to attach this list item to our document, to our unordered list. So how we do that is first we get our unordered list, which is a user list, and then we'll say append child, and now we're adding our new li. So save that, and then when we come back here you can test it. So I added my name, I can add another name, let's say Martha, Jerry, and yeah, that's pretty much how that works. So we were able to add our elements. That's all I had for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. So moving forward, we're going to be doing a lot of really fun project-based stuff. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you're always informed when I drop a new video. And I'll see you guys in the next video.